welcome to the March 2nd, 2023 City Council meeting. I am City Council President Jim Nash, and I will be presiding this evening. Before we begin, I want to let everyone know that this meeting and all participating on Zoom will be audio and video recorded. Tonight, our agenda has us considering a financial order to approve a COLA, or a cost of living increase for city retirees. We will also be discussing a resolution in support of the annual observance of COVID-19 Remembrance Day. If you sense something different going on tonight, you might be aware that we are functioning in a hybrid meeting format, meaning this meeting is being held both in person and remotely over Zoom. For the month of March, we are holding our full City Council meetings in this hybrid format to help us assess how we want to proceed after March 31st, when the governor's order allowing remote participation expires. Feedback on your experience is welcome as we try this out. Write us, call us, speak at public comment. We want to hear your thoughts. I want to extend a special thanks to Northampton Open Media for their efforts to make this hybrid meeting possible, and especially thank Dave Newland, who has served as our technical whiz in preparation for tonight. I now call the City Council to order. Laura, can you please call the roll?
Sure. Councilor Elkins. Here. Councilor Foster.
Here.
Councilor Gore.
Here.
Councilor Jarrett.
Here.
Councilor Labarge.
Here.
Councilor Maori.
Here.
Councilor Moulton.
Here.
Councilor Nash.
Here.
And Councilor Perry.
Here.
Council President, you have a quorum.
Cool. All right. So we are convened, and before public comment, we have some public hearing announcements. Announcement of a public hearing on item 22.199, National Grid Verizon poll petition for North Main Street. Per Mass General Law, the Northampton City Council will hold a public hearing on Thursday, March 16th, 2023 at 7 p.m. in Council Chambers at 212 Main Street. We are here right now on National Grid's Verizon's petition to install 2 jointly owned stub poles on North Main Street. And I suppose we'll find out what a stub pole is. Instructions for accessing the hearing remotely may be found on the March 16, 2023 City Council agenda to be posted on www.northamptonma.gov no later than 48 hours prior to the meeting. The City Council will hear all persons who wish to be heard thereon. The second announcement of a public hearing around the Northampton Capital Improvement Program for FY 2024 through FY 2028. This will be held on Thursday, March 16th. In accordance with Article 7, Section 7.5 of the Charter, the Northampton City Council will hold a public hearing on Thursday, March 16th, 2023 at 7:05 p.m. in City Council Chambers in the Wallace J. Pachalski Municipal Building, that is also here. The City Council will consider the capital improvement program for FY 2024 through FY 2028 and hear all persons who wish to be heard thereon. The CIP is available for inspection online at www.northamptonma.gov. Okay. And now we are going to do public comment. And, all right. Okay, if you are present in council chambers and you want to make a public comment, please put your name on the sign-up sheet at the podium. I now have it here if anybody else wants to sign up. If you are remote and wish to make a public comment, please use the raise hand feature located on the bottom menu bar under reactions. If you are calling in by phone and you wish to make a public comment, you can raise your hand by hitting *9 If you're having trouble raising your hand, you may use the chat feature to send a message to Counselor Foster, who is helping manage the meeting. To ensure equal access, and because of open meeting law, technical problems such as not being able to raise your hand are the only thing the chat function is used for, and the chat function will only be available during public comment. We cannot accept comment over chat, private chat, or a chat only visible on Zoom during a public meeting is antithetical to an open public process, in violation of the council rules for public participation, and violates the spirit and potentially the law of open meeting law. If you want to submit a written public comment, please email it to citycouncil@northamptonma.gov, and it will be sent to all of the councilors, and it will be part of the public record. I will recognize those who wish to speak by alternating between people on the sign-up sheet here and in council chambers, and the folks queuing up remotely by Zoom. I will be alternating between those two. Before you begin, please state your name and your city or town for the public record. To ensure everyone has an equal opportunity to speak, the council limits comments to 2 minutes. You are in no way obligated to use the full 2 minutes, but if you do, after 2 minutes, I will ask you to please finish your sentence. If you set your Zoom screen for gallery mode, you will see the blue sky timer indicating how much time each speaker has. And I wonder if we'll see it on here, but oh well. According to the council rules, we do not respond during public comment, as it is your time to speak. So while your comments should be directed to us, you will understand when we do not respond. Our rules also state the councilors and members of the public shall conduct themselves with civility and respect at all times. Your protected speech is a constitutional right, and one that we ask you to wield with consideration and respect for all, and do so with the recognition that the public space that grants you that freedom is shared equally by everyone. Also, according to open meeting law, if someone is disrupting a meeting, they may be removed. You may speak on any topic. It doesn't need to be an item on the agenda. To those of you joining us remotely, I ask that all but the council turn off your video until called upon. Only the person recognized has the floor, and all comments are to be directed to us, the council. So, do we have anybody? We have Tom Sullivan. Want to step up and...
I'm here, actually, Tom Sullivan. I live in South Hadley. I'm a member of the Northampton Retirement Board, and we were asked, I guess, by the board to come present to present or answer any questions. I can give you a little background, a little history, and then happy to answer any questions that I can at that time. Is that fair?
Well, we don't interact, but
Okay.
Feel free to make a
Sure.
statement.
Yeah, no problem. First of all, just a little history on the retirement board. I've been on the board over almost 12 years now. Right now, we're funded ratio is at 76% for the city of Northampton. It's the top 1/3 of the municipalities in the most recent data. We just changed the years to be fully funded. We reduced it by 1 year, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. It's going to save thousands and maybe millions of dollars for the city of Northampton. Right now, we're looking at 2035 as the year to be fully funded on that. We are asking to increase the COLA from 3% to 5%. Last time this was done, it was in 2011. So it's over 10 years that this increase hasn't been done for the city of Northampton's retirees. This 3 to 5% is capped off the base of $13,000. So it's not the full retirement benefit that the people would receive. Right now, the City of Northampton's Retirement Board, the 10-year annualized return is 7.39. The 20-year annualized return was 7.60. Not bad, considering looking at the last 10 years and including some of the last 2 years. Maybe that may be a little bit rougher for most investments. As of 12/31/22, the assets are at $145 million. So, as everyone knows, Social Security had a major increase this year, 8.7% for 2023. Whoops, is that my time?
Finish your.
Oh, okay, sorry. 8.7%. I know the city of Northampton retirees don't have that, but there's a lot of retirees that did have other employment before becoming a city employee. They may have benefited from there, but there's windfall profit laws that constrict the amount of Social Security money they can receive. So a lot of other people don't have the access to, that some others may have for retirement benefits.
So I'm going to stop you there.
Yeah.
And I suspect that counselors may want to hear a little more and maybe recognize you during.
Sure. No problem.
Okay. Thank
No
you.
problem. You got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks for your time.
Okay, next up is Jennifer Ritz Sullivan. Okay, Jennifer is coming in remotely. Let's see how this works.
Let's see.
Okay,
Hi, everyone.
okay. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you. As stated, my name is Jennifer Ritz Sullivan. I live in Goshen. I spend a lot of time in Northampton. I am the Massachusetts Marked by COVID Justice Leader. Marked by COVID is a grassroots nonprofit leading the way in national movement for pandemic justice and remembrance, and we're all volunteers who have been deeply impacted by the pandemic. So I'm a working class, disabled, immune compromised person, so I very much appreciate this hybrid model. My husband's an essential worker in Northampton, and I'm also someone who's COVID bereaved. The pandemic continues to impact my family and millions of others who've been marked by COVID. My 66-year-old mom, Earla Dawn, caught COVID before the vaccines. She spent the last 2 weeks of her life slowly suffocating to death, isolated in an ICU. I was separated from my family by over 800 miles and my friends, and we were forced to carry our grief alone without the rituals of community and memorialization that bring us comfort in times of loss. HD 3821 is a bill in the State House introduced by Representatives Dome and Boulay, and it calls for the first Monday in March to be a day of COVID remembrance in Massachusetts. It's mirrored at a federal level. This legislation was introduced by Senators Warren and Markey, also calling for a COVID Memorial Day on the first Monday in March. Additionally, over 180 cities in 36 states have introduced a COVID Memorial Day resolution. So this is a day to unite as COVID has impacted everyone. It's a day to remember the losses that are continuing and are going to continue to happen. And we view it as a day of also future pandemic prevention, because we can't prevent what we're unwilling to acknowledge. So we have to remember the over 24,000 COVID deaths in our state. And with that, thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, alternating back to the room, Ruthie Woodring.
I'm
Welcome.
Ruthie Woodring from Florence. I didn't realize till you just said a minute ago, Jim, that I only had 2 minutes to speak. I thought I was going to have 3, but good thing I only had like 40 seconds of stuff worth to say. It really, it's just, I just wanted to be here to celebrate this in-person meeting. It's just very exciting to see all your faces in the same place. And I want to thank you all for your service to the community and meetings. Like, I've seen like Alex on Zoom meetings, late, can't stay awake, you're still awake. Anyway, I just want to really appreciate all your all's meetings and work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruthie. Okay, next up is Jackie.
Hey.
Jackie McCreener, welcome.
Thank you. Am I unmuted here?
You're unmuted and you have the floor.
All right, great. I'd like to echo what Ruthie just said. So thank you all for your service. And thank you, Council President Nash. My name is Jacqueline McCrainer, and I live in Northampton. Councilors Perry and Elkins, Chair and Vice Chair respectively of the Committee on Community Resources, have recently hosted, along with Director Mish of the Planning Department, 2 meetings that held roundtable discussions on housing issues in Northampton. The first discussion was held this past November 21st and centered on housing economics. The roundtable featured panel members that could speak to these issues and included 2 local builders, a local real estate agent, the director of the Land Use and Environment Department at the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, and the real estate development director from the Valley CDC. The second discussion was held a little over a month ago on January 23rd and centered on neighborhood character and design, tree-related building issues, and energy and sustainability issues related to construction. The panelists for that roundtable featured a local architect as well as our tree warden, Rich Parasolidi. I believe residents, city officials, and city staff found these roundtable discussions on housing issues very educational and informative. So I wonder if the Committee on Community Resources and Director Mish would be willing to team up again to continue the discussions on housing issues, as they seem so beneficial to everybody. And I wonder if the next roundtable could focus specifically on the issue of workforce housing, in particular speaking to ways in which the city can preserve its existing inventory of modest middle-income workforce housing and how it can prioritize the construction of future modest middle-income workforce housing. Northampton seems to have found its footing with the development of Chapter 40B low-income housing and luxury single-family homes, townhouses, and condos, and it would be wonderful to have a panel of local professionals address the need for workforce housing and how to preserve our existing stock and how to sustainably and mindfully develop new workforce housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anybody else here who would like to speak? Okay, seeing nobody in the room in council chambers, is there anybody else on Zoom who'd like to raise their hand and speak? Okay, seeing none, we are moving on from public comment, and we are now on to announcements from councilors and the mayor. Mayor, do you have any announcements? Okay, so the mayor, councilors.
Hi, everyone. So on March 13th, the Legislative Matters Committee will be meeting, and we're going to take up 2 ordinances related to parking on North Elm Street and school zones at the high school and Smith Voc. And then we'll have 2 public hearings. One will be about 7 ordinance amendments related to the form-based code, kind of cleaning up the form-based code, and an ordinance to clarify reduced lot line uses allowed by right. So I hope you can join us. It's at March 13th at 5 p.m., and it will be a virtual meeting.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Gore.
Yeah, the Select Committee to Study Barriers to Commissions and Committees is having a listening session on March 19th for the public to come and talk about how they feel about barriers to committees and commissions. We're going to have a press release out. We're going to put out flyers, so stay tuned for more information on that. It's going to be at March 19th at 12 p.m.
Thank you. Councilor Foster.
Yes, I have 2 announcements and feel very badly that both of my announcements have conflicting dates and times to your announcements. But we've recently passed the 1-year mark of Russia's invasion in Ukraine. And I mentioned this a couple meetings ago, but Ward 2 is home to a family that moved to Northampton after leaving Ukraine for their safety. And so I've been working with the family to promote ways that we can educate the public on humanitarian efforts and ways to support. I know many people want to know how they can help, and so I've got 2 ways that you can help. On Monday, March 13th, we're hosting a small gathering at the Florence Civic Center. That's from 6:45 p.m. to 8 p.m. We'll have drinks and snacks. Another Ward 2 neighbor, Kate Geis, she's actually an award-winning documentary maker, is putting together just a very short snippet of film clips to help tell the story of what's happening in Ukraine. And we'll share information about ways to help our families that are still living in Ukraine. They've been living through a tough winter with lack of infrastructure and heat and very challenging conditions. So there's one charity that's offering mental health support to families and children, and a larger charity that's offering humanitarian aid, as well as ways to support families living right here in Western Massachusetts. So that's Monday, March 13th at the Florence Civic Center. You can shoot me an email. Also, there's information online. I'll make sure that I distribute that out to counselors so you have it. And then Sunday, March 19th, All Sport is hosting a dodgeball tournament, and that is also going to fundraise for humanitarian aid for Ukraine. I love dodgeball. I'm really excited about this. So I'll be putting together a team and invite anybody who's interested also to contact me on that one. There's a youth division, ages 11 to 14, as well as adult recreational and adult competitive. I will admit to not quite knowing the difference, but I would imagine adult competitive dodgeball is some serious stuff. But there's a recreational division, and that is the afternoon of Sunday, March 19th, so you can go to the listening session for the select committee and then play some dodgeball after. And that information is on the All Sport website, and I'll also share it with counselors.
And what time is the thing on the 13th?
That is from 6:45 to 8 at the Florence Civic Center.
Thank you.
Yep.
Counselor Perry.
Well, in the spirit of the city council coming together, my announcement is about the city coming together, and the Back Porch Festival is happening this weekend. It is March 3rd, 4th, and 5th. It is co-sponsored by Northampton's Arts Council, and it is at a slew of venues. I'm not going to list them all, but Progression, Parlor Room, Academy of Music. I think there's stuff at the Hotel Northampton. Head over to backporchfest.com to look up the schedule and go out and see some American roots music.
Excellent. Any other announcements? I just want to extend a thank you to the Daily Hampshire Gazette for the coverage that they've been providing the city and council the last few months. It's been really robust, that our meetings have been covered, as well as some of our committee meetings, and I just really appreciate it, and I'm sure the council appreciates the information getting out to the community as to what we're doing. So, thank you, Daily Hampshire Gazette. Anybody else? Mayor.
Hey.
Welcome to the podium.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. I'm just going to take a moment and experience this. This makes it feel official in a whole nother way, oddly enough, to be with you here in person and to be at this podium addressing you in this way. So it's so great to be here and to see you all. Not to add one more thing to March 19th, but I want to make sure the council knows that that's the St. Patrick's Day Parade in Holyoke. I hope that there will be some contingent that's going to march with me. So I don't know if Laura, if you got an email or if you know what it's early in the morning for a part of the day. So just want to make sure that you know about that. And another thing, a bit of information that regarding remote meetings is yesterday the House passed to keep remote as is, with the provisions that have been since the pandemic through, I believe, March 2025. So that's now passed the House, and there's belief that it will pass the Senate and the governor will sign it. So as we're taking this big step here tonight, they kind of took a big step yesterday, not with anything permanent, but that they are extending this for a couple of years. So I just wanted to put that on everyone's radar. And in addition to Back Porch, thank you for sharing that. I just wanted to make sure that everyone knows that we have 4 Sundays in March this year. So Back Porch is kicking off 4 Sundays. Then the following Sunday will be the Silver Cord Bowl, and just go onto the Arts Council site and see all the wonderful things that are going to be happening this month around the arts. So I hope people will join in on that as well. And I think that is it for me. So again, it's great to be with you all.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay. No presentations. Now we are up to the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, we have the minutes of February 2nd, 2023. We have item 23.249, in order to appropriate $30,000 free cash for City Hall campus space study. That is in second reading. And we have item 23.250, in order to appropriate $30,000 in free cash for a recreational field usage and responsibility study. That is it for the consent agenda. Is there any requests for removals? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move the consent agenda.
Motion made by Counselor Labarge and seconded by Counselor
I
Elkins.
didn't have my microphone on, so I lost fair and square.
Well, we managed the remote in person there. Okay. There's no discussion on the consent agenda. Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Elkins.
Yes.
Counselor Foster.
Yes.
Counselor Gore.
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett.
Yes.
Counselor Labarge.
Yes.
Counselor Maori.
Yes.
Counselor Moulton.
Yes.
Counselor Nash.
Yes.
And Counselor Perry.
Yes.
Okay, the consent agenda has been approved. Next up is financial orders. On the agenda here, we have 23.253, in order to approve FY 2023 COLA increase for retirees. Mayor, I will take a moment to read through some of this. Whereas on November 16, 2022, the governor signed Chapter 269 of the Acts of 2022, an act relative to cost of living adjustments for retirees, into law, which approves local retirement systems, a local option to increase the cost of living adjustment, COLA, for fiscal year 2023 up to 5% on the base amount specified in communities that have accepted the provisions of GL 32, Section 103. The approval of the increase can occur anytime during the fiscal year and will retroactively take effect as of July 1st, 2022. Whereas the city accepted the provisions of Section 103 by order passed by the City Council on June 18th. What happened? Oh.
Whoops. Oh, sorry, I can stop sharing.
No, that's okay. I'll find it. All right, where'd it go? All right. June 18th, 1998, and whereas the Northampton Retirement Board engaged the services of Stone Consulting to conduct a study on the impact of one-time additional 2% increase, and whereas on February 2nd, 2023, after review of the study and in support of the city's retirees during a time of high inflation, the board voted to increase the FY 23 COLA from 3% to 5%, and whereas in order to enact the measure, it must receive local approval through a recommendation by the mayor, followed by a vote in favor by the city council. Now, therefore, it be ordered that the city council approves an increase to the FY 2023 retiree cost of living adjustment from 3% to 5% retroactive to July 1st, 2022, in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 269 of the Acts of 2022. Mayor.
I do support this and am happy to support it, but I'm actually going to hand it over to Director Nardi, who sits on the board with Mr. Sullivan and can speak to this more granularly. But again, one of the points Mr. Sullivan made is that this is actually only on the first $13,000. So it's, I think this is an important and very worthwhile increase that actually doesn't have that significant an impact that we need to be concerned of budgetarily. So, Director Nardi.
Welcome, Director Nardi.
Good evening. It's wonderful to see you all in person. So as the mayor said, I am the mayor's appointee on the retirement board. I sit with 4 other members, Tom Sullivan. The city auditor, Joyce Karpinski, is the chairperson. I also sit, Tammy Supernaut is an elected member, Karen LaFleche, and myself, Tom, who am I forgetting? Is that? Yep, that's all of us. And then also, I think on our Zoom call is also our retirement administrator, David Shipka. So I just want to briefly, as the order states, the governor has allowed us to increase from 3% our COLA to 5%. Some of the reasons that the board decided to do that was that most recently that the Social Security Administration for FY 2023, or for 2023 calendar year, I'm always used to fiscal years, increased it from increased to 8.7%. That's applied to the entire pension or cost that people get from Social Security. As the mayor has said, and Mr. Sullivan has said as well, our 5% is only on the base, which is $13,000. So just to give you a little background, the local option is for a one-time increase to the gross retirement allowance of Northampton retirees and survivors from 3 to 5%, capped at the base of $13,000, and it's retroactive to July 1st, 2022. To qualify for any cost of this living adjustment on July 1, 2022, the employee must have retired prior to July 1st, 2021. The amount of the annual increase is a minimum of $40 a year. The maximum that an employee would receive is $260 additionally a year. So the average for our retirees is an additional $217 a year. The number of retirees qualifying is 444. The percentage below the 13% base is 24%. So 24% of our retirees receive less than $13,000. That's about 106 of our 444 retirees. As Tom mentioned, our fund is, or the retirement is funded at 76%. We are in the top 1/3 of municipalities who are that high. This increase will add to our liability $1.2 million. It's about $100,000 for the last 12 years that we have to become fully funded. But remember, that increase will not just be covered by city funds, but it is covered by active retirees, active employees who are paying for their retirement. Retirees already paid their portion, they're retired, and just the small percentage, and then our investment return, which, as Tom noted, is 7.9%. 7.39 over 10 years, 7.6 over 20 years, but we have seen since inception about 9% a return on our investments. So just a little more facts that wonderfully David Shipka put together for us. There are 48 out of the 102 systems that exist in Massachusetts have already voted this. So, and then the next step, of course, is the local approval, which happens to be in front of you tonight.
Counselors, any questions? Oh, thank you. Counselor Labarge.
Thank you. Chardine, so the existing 3% on the first 13,000 base salary, that has actually been put in place for several years, correct?
So yes, my understanding is we have given 3% over the last 20 years, every year, annually.
And I think I heard tonight the breakdown for retirees COLA. I think in 1998, it was $252. In 1999, $360. In 2000, $288 and $201. Through 2010 was $360 and $211 through 2022 at $390. So in other words, the last 10 years, it has only gone up $30. Is that correct?
So the increases that we were saying that was the increase that they got each year. So I don't have those percentages or those dollar amounts in front of me anymore. So this year, it will be, it's an additional $260 if we vote this. And I think it was, Tom, help me out, what was the number, the total for 3%? What was the increase? It was 260.
260.
So the maximum is 260 with the additional 2%. Total of
Okay.
658. So with the 5%, it'll be 658, but you're right, they've only received like 200 or 300 each year is the increases.
So in other words, this increase would apply over a 12-month period, correct?
For the full year, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. Oh, yeah, that's the end one. Yep,
Thank you
this is
very
the old
much.
one. Yep.
And I did hear about how several other city and towns already are at that 5%, correct?
So yes, so out of the 102 systems, 48 of them have already voted, the boards themselves. Again, they must go through the local approval process as well.
Okay, I just feel that the additional 2% will help our retirees navigate the growing costs, such as, which is happening, the increase in real estate tax, the stormwater runoff, the increased cost of their supplemental health insurance, which that goes up, and also, their homes, their insurances, their cars, their fuel, their food. How could we ever, as city councilors, say no to something like this? We're really looking at retirees of 38 years, 48 years. I have some on my ward with over 40-something years with the city. So to me, I think they deserve this. So thank you, Chardine.
And I'd like to share a fact that Mr. Sullivan has provided. In 1971, the base was $6,000, and the increase was 6%, or $360, which is what we're asking for today.
Thank you.
And that was 40 years ago. Thank you.
Yeah.
Counselor Moldman, Counselor Jarrett.
Okay, thanks. So we can only do this if the legislature and governor approves, correct? To give a community a local option. So it would be foolish, I think, for us not to take advantage of that, because we have just a narrow window to do that. So I think it's a great opportunity for us and fully support it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you mentioned, or maybe Tom Sullivan did, solvency in 2035. So does this push that back at all, or are we going to be getting more money from retirees, or from people who haven't retired yet, who are contributing rather to the retiree? How does that affect our solvency date?
So every year we do a study to figure out what our schedule will be. We did that study earlier in the fall, and then this notice came out in November. So that's what our study mentioned in the order. We did another study and we changed our scheduling. So we've increased the city's contribution by $132,000 for FY 2024. And then every year we do that study, but it doesn't change the percentage that retirees pay in. It is, or excuse me, not retirees, but active employees. The study will be based on our return on our investments, and that will determine how much the city puts forward each year. So we did change our schedule. When we took this vote, we adopted to increase the schedule that we had for FY 2024. And it would increase that by $132,000.
And those funds come from the general fund?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Foster.
Thank you, Director, and Tom and others who've spoken. And no question, just wanted to offer support that I think one of the challenging things about public service jobs in the moment and in and through retirement is how very often that pay fluctuates, but it never keeps up with the cost of living. And so I appreciate seeing this and offering what the city is able to retirees. So thank you.
Weird, I have to look around rather than just at my screen. So, Mr. Sullivan, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I think it's been said. I think when you look at the number of retirees, I think every board member here will be a retiree of the city of Northampton. Both my parents worked for the city of Northampton. They were benefits of the retirement board, but I think this is a great thing. I think it's something that's duly needed for the retirees.
Thank you.
Your support.
Thank you for your service, too. Okay. Counselor Maori. Who's got their hand up?
I think Counselor Jarrett did first.
Okay, and then you had yours up? Okay, so we'll go Jared Elkins.
Well,
Did you have yours up?
Didn't.
Oh, okay.
I feel like I should say something.
well, I'm just going to move that we refer this to the consent agenda of our next meeting. Don't forget to turn your mics on.
Oh, yeah.
I would second that.
Okay, motion made by Counselor Jarrett, seconded by Counselor Elkins to have this item placed on the consent agenda at our next meeting. Any other discussion?
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Martin. Any other discussion? Okay, Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
and Counselor Elkins.
Yes.
Okay. Item 23.253, in order to approve FY '23 COLA increase for retirees, will appear on the consent agenda at our next meeting. Okay, next up is, we move quickly down to resolutions. We have item 23.252, a resolution in support of the annual observance of COVID-19 Remembrance Day. This is in first reading. A process note, the sponsors respectfully ask suspension of the rules to allow the resolution to be approved tonight, since the proposed COVID-19 Remembrance Day is the first Monday of March, which is next Monday. So, and the sponsors are the mayor, Councilor Maori, and Councilor Moulton. And usually what we've been doing, the practice is have the sponsors read things into the record. How would you like to go about this, sponsors? Want to make the mayor do it?
Kinda. Yeah, I kinda do. How do you feel, Counselor Moulton? Should we have the mayor read it?
Sure, I'm happy to have the mayor lend her voice to this.
I put you on the spot, Mayor. I feel, you can do a little bit and then sit down and.
Okay, wow, that really feels like old times. Okay, in the year 2023, upon the recommendation of Mayor Gina Luciara, Councilor Rachel Maori, Councilor Stanley Moulton III, a resolution in support of the annual observance of COVID-19 Remembrance Day. Whereas the first Monday in March is an appropriate day to be designated as COVID-19 Victims and Survivors Memorial Day. And whereas COVID-19 SARS-CoV-2 is an illness caused by a virus that can transmit from person to person and is spread across the world, creating a global pandemic and having catastrophic effects on human life, our community, and our economy. And whereas in March 2020, communities everywhere began to experience increased loss of life and families lost parents, siblings, children, other relatives, friends, and neighbors from the virus. And whereas many people across the Commonwealth and the United States continue to be personally impacted by COVID-19, including suffering from long-term health implications of the virus. And whereas more than 6.8 million people worldwide and 1.1 million people in the United States have lost their lives due to COVID-19. And in Northampton alone, 7,137 cases of COVID-19 were reported as of February 4th, 2023, including 113 lives lost to this deadly virus. And whereas in response to the rapid spread of COVID-19, frontline and essential workers and healthcare professionals took selfless action to protect their neighbors and communities and find innovative ways to provide services and save lives. And whereas COVID-19 has had a disproportionate impact on low-income communities and communities of color, rural and tribal communities, people with disabilities, people with weakened immune systems, unhoused individuals, and those living in congregate settings such as long-term care facilities and prisons, exacerbating systemic inequalities and social determinants of health. And whereas COVID-19 has had a devastating impact on the Native American community, with Native Americans losing over 6 years of life expectancy, and has caused the incalculable loss of elders who carried with them the community's cultures, languages, traditions. And whereas COVID-19 has been an insidious disease for veterans, including 5 from Northampton who lost their lives at the Holyoke Soldiers' Home in one of the worst outbreaks during the early weeks of the pandemic. The impact has been especially difficult for those veterans struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder because of the increased social isolation and disrupted access to mental health services. And whereas COVID-19 has harmed the health and well-being of children by delaying access to care and health services, disrupting schooling, undermining their sense of safety and security, increasing stress on caregivers, and tragically robbing millions of children of a parent or caregiver. And whereas each life lost to COVID-19, each inequity brought to light, and each sacrifice made shall never be forgotten. And whereas 185 other cities and towns across the country recognize COVID-19 Remembrance Day. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Northampton recognizes the first Monday of each March as COVID-19 Remembrance Day in recognition of those who died as a result of the pandemic and the suffering of those who survived but carry the long-term impacts of this virus. Be it further resolved that COVID-19 Remembrance Day acknowledges the frontline and essential workers who provided services to our community and the selfless actions of hundreds of volunteers who stepped up to help support relief efforts for their neighbors. Be it further resolved that the City of Northampton urges local residents to continue taking preventative measures as appropriate to protect vulnerable members of the community and to mitigate spread of this virus, in tribute to essential workers and those who rose in service to protect the public. Be it further resolved that the City of Northampton urges the Massachusetts State Legislature to move with all deliberate speed and urgency to pass HD 3821, resolutions establishing the annual observance of COVID-19 Remembrance Day. And be it further resolved that the administrative assistant to the City Council shall send a copy of this resolution to Congressman James P. McGovern, Senator Elizabeth Warren, Senator Edward Markey, Governor Maura Healey, Senate President Karen Spilka, House Speaker Ronald Mariano, State Senator Joe Comerford, and State Representative Lindsay Sabadosa.
Thank you. Well done.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Sponsors. Well, the mayor's at the podium. Maybe you want to go first?
I'm happy to go first. First of all, I want to thank my co-sponsors very much for supporting this annual Day of Remembrance with me and recognizing victims, those that mourn, and those that continue to struggle with the effects of the pandemic, as well as our frontline and essential workers during the pandemic. Very, very special thanks to Jennifer Ritz-Sullivan, who you heard from during public comment, and others from Marked by COVID Massachusetts for approaching the city and approaching us and asking us to create this resolution and support this action. Thanks to our neighboring state representatives, Mindy Dahm and Natalie Blais, for introducing HD 3821 and calling for a COVID Remembrance Day for the first Monday of March. And also thanks to the support at the federal level of the Massachusetts Congress members, all of them, of course, including our very own Congressman McGovern and our senators for putting forward legislation at the federal level. So again, thank you to the sponsors for joining me, and I hope that the council will join us in having Northampton recognize this first Monday in March as COVID-19 Remembrance Day, and in urging that same recognition both at the state and federal level. Thanks.
Sponsors?
Well, thank you very much, Mayor, for being, responding so fast on this. And I think it really has struck a chord in all of us, reading Jennifer's story when we got an email, and just thinking about what we've all been through. And I was thinking, even if you haven't lost someone, none of us will ever be quite the same. And then I was thinking about ritual and space for healing, space for grieving, space for thanking people, and how the way it's played out, we're never really got to the end of it. And so it hasn't quite happened in the same way. There's a little more space, but the fear is still there. It's not really gone. But as Jennifer said in an email to us, how can we prevent something that we don't, we're not even willing to acknowledge? And so I think it behooves us, wherever we are in this pandemic, to make space for that, to process it. And I think that is important for kind of deciding where we go next in terms of precautions, in terms of what changes we want to see kind of in a permanent sense or need to see, and what kind of normalcy we can, or familiarity we can go back to. But in any way, in any sense, I think that Memorial Days offer that kind of ritual and that space and that community. The community can show up and hold those who are continuing to suffer and who've had such losses, like Jennifer. And certainly Jennifer has done her mother's memory a great honor with her good work at Marked by COVID, and I'm honored to follow her lead and support this day of remembrance.
Thank you, Councilor Knoll.
Thank you, and thank you, Mayor and Councilor Maori, for your very heartfelt remarks. As has been alluded to by several people, this is the first time the council has convened in person here since March 5th of 2020, which was days before Northampton joined much of the rest of the world in really having our community altered in lasting ways. And the numbers are one thing. And by the way, the number of cases in Northampton has risen from February 4th, which was cited in the resolution. At that time was 7,137, now to 7,198. So that's just evidence that this continues. I mean, the fact that we're back here tonight doesn't mean that the pandemic has ended and that we're back to normal. There is no back to normal. We're still coping with the impacts of the pandemic, which have affected many of us in the community. And I think it is appropriate, the first time that we're back here in the council chambers, to have some time of reflection about that. And this day of remembrance is a way of, again, honoring the frontline people, the essential workers, all the professional healthcare staff, and the many volunteers who also stepped up to help with relief efforts. I mean, they've been mentioned a number of times during the course of the pandemic, but it's appropriate for us to, again tonight, to recognize them, and with a day of remembrance to honor them, as well as to remember the people who've been lost. I mean, the numbers are one thing, but with every number there's a face and a family and other loved ones. And I also, I think that it's also a time to note that we as a community have to continue to support, particularly the most vulnerable among us who were most affected by the pandemic. And this is a good way of recognizing that. Follows the mayor's announcement 2 weeks ago of the $4 million in ARPA money that are going to 61 community recovery projects that will continue to help people recover from the pandemic. So I appreciate my co-sponsors' work on this, and I hope that we can get this approved tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Thank you. How can I miss you? You're enormous up there. Counselor Labarge, you have the floor.
Thank you. I want to thank Jennifer. When she had sent this to all of us counselors, there was a lot of hard work being involved. And reading this, it reminded me when former Counselor Michael Quinlan and I did a resolution, also, about the Holyoke Soldiers Home, of the COVID-19 that had really affected many, many veterans, men and women, at the Holyoke Soldiers Home. And we were backing of making sure that our governor, our state reps, our senators would get that money to redo and reconstruct new buildings at the Holyoke Soldiers Home. And, you know, it worked. And they are getting a new building. And when I look at this ordinance about our veterans, it did affect a resident of mine in Ward 6 who died of the COVID at the Holyoke Soldiers Home. There is a lot involved in here, and I think I heard Councilor Moulton say it's not ended, and it has not ended. Just 2 weeks ago, I've been informed about one of the clubs in Florence. They had a huge benefit going on, and the people that I know had called me, and they ended up with the COVID. It's very sad of the loss of lives that have occurred over the COVID. And Jennifer, I want to thank you. Thank you dearly for coming forth, and the two sponsors and the mayor for bringing the resolution to everybody. And we need to do the Remembrance Day and observe the COVID-19. And I support this 100%.
Thank you, Counselor. Oh. Anyone else?
I'd like to move that we suspend the rules and pass this resolution tonight.
Second.
Wow.
So this, all right, so motion made by Counselor Elkins, and I think it was seconded by Counselor Jarrett, but I wasn't looking this way. So this is something, I'm used to the green box showing up, so.
I think it was seconded by that whole half of the room.
It's like teams now.
Okay, and so a motion to suspend the rule. Any discussion on suspending the rule? Okay, so we're suspending the rule for having second reading or for approval tonight. So hearing no further discussion, Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Elkins,
Yes.
and Counselor Foster.
Yes.
Okay, the rule has been suspended that this needs to go to another meeting. We can approve this tonight. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, motion made by
Second.
Counselor Perry, seconded by Counselor Elkins. Any discussion? Counselor Foster.
Just a quick thank you. Also, Jennifer, I wanted to extend my thank you to you and to the co-sponsors, Mayor, Counselor Moulton, Counselor Maori. Thank you for bringing this forward.
Counselor Gore.
I just want to thank the sponsors for bringing it forward too, and I think it's really important to have a Remembrance Day for COVID-19. My condolences to Jennifer and all the people who have lost lives to COVID, and my thanks to all the essential workers that worked so hard and still continue to work hard to battle this virus. And I hope that a Remembrance Day can remind us how it was, you know, in the beginning, when it was so scary and so many people were losing their lives. And so we won't forget how bad that was for all of us, and we'll keep it in our minds for the next, if there's another pandemic, which inevitably there probably will be. So thanks to everybody who brought this forward.
Thank you, Council. I just want to say how appropriate it is that we're considering this tonight, the first time we've been back together. I mean, I'm looking around the room, that there's the folks who've been here for 3 years now, and that, our time together has all been on Zoom. We did 5 meetings, and that for the new counselors, this is your first time here, and that the impact of being in the room is we're humans, and we like to be together, and the Zoom has been a great format for us to get through things, but I'm not going to motion that we do anything tonight, but I think that, being together and being able to meet with other people is really important. And I want to, recognize the trauma that the entire community's gone through around, dealing with this virus, that we've pulled ourselves apart in so many ways. Recall the days where people were afraid to walk down the street, oh, that person doesn't have a mask on, or, going to the grocery store, and that the fear was rampant, and it was real, and there was real reason to be concerned, and how it took a long time to figure out how this virus actually works. And we've all been pretty traumatized, but I think we're pretty resilient. We're back, and I welcome this. And thank you for this opportunity to reflect on, what we've been through the last few years. So thank you, sponsors. Thank you, Mayor. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Laura, roll call on approving this evening.
Counselor Jarrett.
Yes.
Counselor Labarge.
Yes.
Counselor Maori.
Yes.
Counselor Moulton.
Yes.
Counselor Nash.
Yes.
Counselor Perry.
Yes.
Counselor Elkins.
Yes.
Counselor Foster.
Yes.
And Counselor Gore.
Yes.
Okay. Item 23.252, a resolution in support of the annual observance of COVID-19 Remembrance Day has been approved, and will be, Mayor, on Monday, is there anything we're asked to remember on Monday? Okay.
And we'll post this resolution on the
Thank you. Okay. There's nothing else on our agenda. Is there any, Counselor Foster?
I should have made this during announcements, but I will take the liberty to say this during new business. The City Council Committee on City Services meeting that was scheduled for Monday, March 6th, will not be meeting. Instead, we'll be meeting on Monday, April 3rd, and at that meeting, we'll have an update on the Department of Community Care from the Department of Health and Human Services.
Thank you, Counselor Foster. Any other new business? Okay. So that brings us to adjourning.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Counselor Perry, seconded by Counselor Elkins. No discussion on adjournment. Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Labarge.
Yes.
Counselor Maori.
Yes.
Counselor Moulton.
Yes.
Counselor Nash.
Yes.
Counselor Perry.
Yes.
Counselor Elkins.
Yes.
Counselor Foster.
Yes.
Counselor Gore.
Yes.
And Counselor Jarrett.
Yes.
Okay, we are adjourned. Nice job, everybody, and, yeah, a round of applause.
Thanks for your hard prep work, President.
Thank you. And